On our episode today, I have Helen Christoni, the Senior VP of AirDoctor and AquaTru by Ideal Living. She is probably one of the smartest people I've had the opportunity to talk to. I'm so excited for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Samir. How you doing? I'm really excited to be here today.
Amazing. I want to really jump right into things because I think your story is fantastic. I love that you're passionate about what you do, and I just want to kind of get started there. So, Helen, can you just give some context around who you are, what you do, and kind of how you got there?
Sure. So, like you just said, I'm Helen, and I work at AirDoctor and AquaTru by Ideal Living, and we're big proponents of educating the world on the importance of clean air and pure water. And so, how did I get here? I think that my journey and my career has been very interesting. I think that I started in at an advertising agency.
Yeah.
And actually I was a traffic manager for this great agency called Ignited Minds in Culver
Yeah.
City. And I rode around on a Razor scooter and like dropped job bags to people. And what was really great about that role is I got to work on great brands, Activision, Sony, Vitamin Water when I got packaged for sale. Like I was in the middle of this really US Army, like all these cool things that were happening with a really creative group of people. And in my role there, I was able to really learn about kind of all aspects of what goes into marketing a product,
Yeah.
And so it was great learning for me at that time. It was a long time ago. I was a single mom, the hours, agency hours, people that have worked agency side, it is a grind. And
Yep.
and so, one of my colleagues had come over to work for Peter Spiegel, who's the founder of Ideal Living. And she was like, you need to meet this guy. Like, I think you guys would really get on well, and he needs someone like you. And so, I came over to start working with Peter like 20 years ago. And
Wow.
I started in product development with him. And
Hmm.
so it's not like I started in social commerce or anything, like I learned about like what I learned with Peter in my early days working with him was really, how to take a product idea from concept to customer
Yep.
and all the work that went into it. And I remember, it's not like I had no education in this. I would literally be in these meetings with these engineers all day long, and I'd have to go home and Google what they were even talking about. I had no idea
Oh,
what
I love
anyone was
that.
saying. But I got a really great front seat education into product development, manufacturing, and because I had that agency experience, it was only a matter of time for me to get into the marketing aspect. And so
Yeah.
I took some detours. I started a beauty business with Peter, the
That's
founder of
awesome.
Ideal Living, a long time ago. And I departed the company. Like I ended up selling that out. Like that got acquired and I went with that business and I was in the beauty industry for a long time.
That's
And
awesome.
I think, before I started here in my role at Air Doctor and AquaTru, like that's like I've been here doing this for like 6 years now.
That's
I found
awesome.
myself with a non-compete in beauty, and I was a little disillusioned in that space. Like I was a little tired of it. And so I really wanted to pivot. And
Yeah.
I think that, I had my own kind of health challenges. And so I was very interested in health and wellness. So I called Peter up and I was like, hey, do you have some consulting for me? And here I am. And so, um, it's been great. And I've really like was like coming home to
Oh.
family when I came back to Ideal Living. So it's been a great ride so far.
That's awesome. I mean, I think one of the things that's so undervalued is I think the best marketers actually are product people, and they really understand the product and who the customer is, and they can understand the product, right? Like, I don't think it's enough to just be a marketer anymore. Like, you really need to understand what you're selling, why you're selling it, and who, and you got to feel connected to it, right? And really
Yeah.
understand it. So I love that, you've kind of experienced that firsthand and seen it all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, look at my early days in product development. I mean, I broke my brain, really, like, I mean, it was very hard for me to really wrap my arms around R&D. I had the privilege of, visiting many manufacturers all over the world, here domestically, to really learn, what it takes to actually make something. And there's so much planning and preparation and discovery that goes on to creating products, especially
Yeah.
when they're backed by science, like the products we have here with AirDoctor and AquaTru. So there's it's like having children.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, before we kind of go into the marketing side of it, let's give a little context to our listeners. So, AirDoctor and AquaTru, what do they sell? I guess what's the thing that sets them apart in the market?
Sure. So, AirDoctor and AquaTru are wellness tech products. Our AirDoctor products, we have a line, a beautiful assortment of air purifiers that are really validated by science to really make sure that people at home are breathing as pure air as possible. And then AquaTru, which is the sister brand, is the first countertop reverse osmosis water
Hmm.
purifier. So, which is really great because it allows people to basically bottle their own water at home, free from all the contaminants that we're worried about these days, like microplastics, forever chemicals. And what's really beautiful about the work we do at AirDoctor and AquaTru is that our mission is that everyone has the right to pure air, clean water, backed by science. And so that's
Yeah.
what I get to do every day.
Yeah, I love that. I think that having a mission-backed business that's actually just trying to make life better for everyone makes it so much easier to get excited about and to want to do it. So you've definitely found a great place to be. Helen, you touched on it earlier on around this idea of social commerce, and that's what your role is now. And I think that uh, when you and I were chatting before, I said not a lot of people do this. Not a lot of people do it well, and it is such a huge opportunity for direct-to-consumer brands or just brands in general. And so let's kind of dig into that. So can you talk more about how you define social commerce? What is it from your perspective?
Well, I think if I were to define it, it would actually really be social community,
Yeah.
and the benefit of that is the commerce piece. So I think that, I really, at least from my desk here, social commerce is created with a community of people that share education with the end user, whether it's a friend, a customer, a classmate, whatever. And I think that social commerce is really interesting. When I came out of the beauty business and I first started working here at Ideal Living with AirDoctor and AquaTru, I mean, I did nothing but influencer marketing in the beauty business. I was very successful with it, broke the internet several times, had great activations, like did all the Coachella activations, the beauty activations, like you name
Yeah.
it, I did it, in every shape and size. And so when I came here to AirDoctor and AquaTru, and I started really learning about the science behind the products, I was so passionate about like talking about it. And I went to Katie and Peter, the co-CEOs here, and I was like, you have to have this conversation on social media. Like you
Yeah.
have to talk to people about this. And and I think at that time, like maybe they had like 500 followers on, for Air Doctor, maybe 200 for AquaTru. And they were like, oh gosh, social. They were a little more like expert driven, and I was like, no, we have to do this, like I'll
Yeah.
do it. And so I created this big plan for them on why it was so important to share this
Yeah.
message on social. And I think when people are starting a social commerce campaign, they go to the commerce first,
Yeah. How
but
does this make me money?
no, for sure. Like everybody wants to get
Yes.
to the commerce part, like,
Yeah.
but you cannot ignore the social piece. And I think
Yeah.
that is a big, it's really important because you have to show people your point of view, you need to share it on your social media pages. Like if you don't have a point of view, um, your partners, your influencers, your affiliates, whatever we're going to call them, right? They're
Yeah.
not going to have a point of view either.
Yeah.
So I think it's the social piece is super important, and people often forget about that piece, especially
Yeah.
today. Like, in 2025,
100%.
people are like, what shortcuts can I get to have like 1,000 affiliates?
Oh,
And
100%. And it's all
yeah,
performance, right? Like, let's try and get performance marketing and let's just do this. And it's this
yeah. What's the
concept of like,
ROI?
100%. And it's like we tell our brands all the time, like, you guys sow the seeds before you reap the benefits. So let's sow the seeds and then reap the benefits, right? So
Yeah.
same situation here for sure.
So I think like when I got started with AirDoctor and AquaTru, I had the units at home. I personally did the social media.
That's awesome.
And so like I would move the products around my house. I was so excited to share the conversation about like the benefits of clean air and pure water, and talk to like moms, women, people,
Mm.
guys, like anybody that would hear. And so I think that was it. Like in the beginning, I was very high touch on social. And then also I completely immersed myself in category. Like,
Mm.
I mean, when I say immersed it, like I went a little crazy. Like I was stalking, following, engaging, and really figuring out who did I want
Mm.
our brand to be friends with. And that was I mean, I spent probably 3 months before I even talked to anybody or even reached out to anybody.
That's
I
interesting.
really just immersed myself in the wellness conversation. And, and then, kind of when I really had highlighted exactly who I wanted to be the brand's
Mm.
friend, like our brand besties, I really went in then and I started doing outreach. And it was very, I mean, like back when I started, not that many people were moving the price point of
Right.
like I mean, Air Doctor could be like a $400 price point, AquaTru
Yeah.
$300 price point. It was a heavy price point pre-COVID to move with a swipe up link on social. And
Yeah.
so I seeded a lot of product. It's, I really was like, if you like it, talk about it. And then and organically people really love the products, and they
Yeah.
started to have conversations, and we were like trying to figure out like how to send them links. Should we do Amazon? Should we do custom pages? Like we didn't even know what we were doing. And we actually started, really interestingly enough, we started driving traffic to Amazon way back when. It was a long time ago. And then we had to pivot because we kept losing the buy box. We'd have all these challenges.
Oh, that's fascinating.
But I think that it really was organic
Okay.
for Air Doctor, and Air Doctor took off first for us. It was definitely, we had sowed the seeds of our garden before
Yeah.
COVID hit. And then when
Yeah.
COVID hit, it was a very large conversation.
Yeah.
So, we were really happy to educate on the importance of clean air during that time for sure.
I love that. I love the concept of educating also because I think that that's really important. I think if I were to kind of highlight out a few things that you said, I think the foundational element of the 3 months that you took to build out a strategy to be really thoughtful, to have a great foundation from which to grow on. I think a lot of people try and skip that part of it, and I don't think you would have seen the success you had if you just kind of went for everyone, right? When we tell our brands, when we're working with them, we remind them your customer persona is not the customers you want, it's the customers you don't want. That negative space gives you an understanding of who you are actually going after. And so I love that you took the time to do that and then got them into the education around the product. I think what you do is so valuable from a branding standpoint too, because the joke amongst my team I tell them is branding is so important because it's like, you walk into a dinner party and you scream about how awesome you are, no one's going to care. But if you
No.
walk into a dinner party and everyone else is talking about how awesome you are, well, all of a sudden that's really valuable, and that's what social commerce and helps unlock. So I love that you kind of did all of that together. Uh, But Helen, now you are a larger business. How do you scale this? How do you grow it? How do you get it beyond, Helen in the living room with the aqueduct?
I mean, I think like, you were talking about education, and
Yeah,
education is really something that I learned in the beauty business. And, when you're in beauty, you are like out in the doors, you're
yeah,
educating beauty advisors, you're educating hairdressers. Like education is such a big part of the beauty industry. And it's a part of the beauty industry that consumers don't often see, And so I think that, like having that experience in beauty really kind of set me up for success with AirDoctor and AquaTru. And, we're such a science-backed business that it wasn't a hard thing for me to get over the
yeah.
finish line as it relates to like educating our partners. And so really early, we started having webinars. I do
Oh,
monthly
wow.
webinars still today. I
That's really
do
cool.
monthly webinars and where we really dig into the science and educate people about the importance of clean air and pure water and all the nasty stuff that can be in our air and water, and
Yeah.
break it down into um you know just really easy conversational ways to communicate it. And in the beginning, I mean, there'd be like 3 or 4 people. Today I can have upwards of 100 people in one of our webinars, and we have them regularly. And sometimes we get the same people who've been coming for years.
Yeah.
So I think from a scaling standpoint, just maintaining that quality of education and touch is very important. And we've had to grow the team. We've
Yeah.
had, we choose here at AirDoctor and AquaTru to manage everything internally. Like I always make a joke, like if someone really needs to get me on the phone, they can. And I'm not kidding. Like, people can get me on my cell phone if like a link isn't breaking during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's like I'm very busy during that time.
Yeah.
But I think that really making sure that for us and for the founders, Katie and Peter here, like relationships are key. And
Yeah.
so really making sure that everybody can get someone on the phone, that they're connected with someone on the team, the right person for whatever they're doing. Like, for instance, like if we have like, people on TikTok or like YouTube creators or email long form, writers, like we need to make sure we have them in the right hands here
Yeah.
internally, because everybody can't know everything. And so we have a lot of specialists on our team that really curate a lot of creative, are always here to help. And
Yeah.
so we have just expanded kind of like our internal social commerce agency to support our growth. And one thing that I think one of the best parts of my job is I have such a young team that are
Yeah.
so in it. And I get to work with all these amazing young people, and it's really been super fulfilling.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm sure it's super energizing, and the beauty is the culture that you've created, and the mission and vision behind the business helps kind of build that where everyone does want to help. Ultimately, I think that's been uh, from an outsider's perspective, been pretty amazing. Um, we've talked about all of the successes and opportunities around social commerce, and all the successes that you've seen with it. You know, it is not the easiest of programs either. So I'd love to hear about kind of the challenges and the things like what are the roadblocks or obstacles that you've had to overcome, and just how are you thinking about it as you move forward?
Oh gosh. I mean, like very early on, I decided to have this big promotion, and I was so excited, and we were going to do this big promotion, and I was going to have everybody go at the same time. And everybody was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, and everything broke, I mean, like everything that could break did break. And I have a joke about like breaking the internet, which,
Yeah,
I have done frequently.
yeah,
And so I think that, um, I think it's important this is one of the reasons I think it's important to be high touch. Because when you farm things out,
yeah,
you're last to know if a link's broken.
Yeah.
with, when you have it like all close under one roof, like everyone knows really quickly when things are going wrong, and it doesn't have to come from like an agency partner. So I think like I'm real like obsessed with like making sure I keep an eye on everything. And it's funny because I typically know first when something's not working right. But I think like we've had a lot of tech challenges, and we've had to scale fairly rapidly with our growth.
Hmm.
And we're constantly having to innovate our MarTech, which in itself is challenging.
Yeah.
Also, because the nature of our program, it in some cases requires customization. It's not, like a one size fits
Right.
all. So just making sure that we're able to stay nimble and pull things off and test and I think also the nature of our company here is very entrepreneurial, direct response. Like the founders have been in the direct response industry since it began,
Yeah.
So we come from a culture of testing, always willing to try something. I say yes a lot. Like when people want to try something, I am like, yeah, let's go for it, So
Yeah.
we're always down to test and to your point, sometimes the tests don't work,
Yeah.
and you need to like fail fast and pivot and acknowledge the bad results too. Like I think
Okay.
I always say like good, bad, and ugly,
Yeah.
you know. And when you get some success, competitors come behind you,
Yeah.
and it's great, like if more people are in the clean air and clean water conversation, awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
But you have to be prepared for that and, update. So it's a constant, like social commerce is not for the weary. It is a nonstop 24/7 effort and
Yeah.
by many people. So it's real exciting business. I really love it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's managing a lot of personalities, continually innovating because you can't sit still because someone is clearly watching what you're doing to try and do the same thing. The partners that you think are your best friends might become best friends with someone else, and so it's really making sure that you're maintaining all those relationships too, and continually trying to identify what makes you stand out and it's interesting because I think the social commerce and affiliate marketing too, I think is very similar to this around um, your culture of your team needs to expand out to your partners. And so
Yeah.
if you've got a good internal culture, then that will impact everyone else. And it kind of starts to feel like a true community, right? And so I think that is probably, from again, from an outsider standpoint, I have to imagine that that is truly challenging and something to kind of manage against.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, like we really, we have great partners, that have been with us from the very beginning. And most of our, the bounty of this business comes from referral and people
Yeah.
just sharing. And so I think that's really the spirit of this program is sharing the science. And one thing is that when you're fortunate enough, like I am here at AirDoctor and AquaTru, to have brands that really are backed by science,
Mhm.
um, we're selling solutions to people that really help them in their life and their families. And so I think that we're also really, we love to have impact. I think that, if people are in trouble and they call, we'll help them. And
Yeah.
so like just recently with the LA fires, we're an LA based company. Half of us were evacuated from our homes, myself included. Our
Yeah.
power was out here at the offices and in our corporate offices here in Sherman Oaks. And we just loaded trucks up at the warehouse. We parked them across the street and we got on social media and we were like, if you need an air purifier, come on down. We're going to sell them at
That's
cost.
awesome. Yeah.
And, we put 20,000 units into the community of Los Angeles in a week at
Yeah.
cost.
That's
And
awesome.
also donated. And so I think that that's the type, and we also did it for East Palestine. We also did it
Yeah.
for Michigan, and we also did it for Hawaii. This isn't a Los Angeles thing, but just recently, I think that our partners, that's meaningful. It's meaningful for us. It's meaningful for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I mean, we do things like I have a partner, her son always does this, like, fundraising for school. And he's just a little boy. And we always like put something up for auction. I
That's
think that
awesome.
personal connection, like, we are not a bot.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place for that type of thing, but we are real people. We're having real conversations. And I really think that that is the beauty of the program that we built here.
Yeah, just remembering it's people to people and it's not corporate policy, right? It's just it's recognizing that. So I love that. I mean, Helen, my last question for you. I know we're coming up on time, so as we're looking ahead, there's so much new technology and things are changing so rapidly right now, especially. What are you looking at? Where are the areas that you're seeing that are getting you excited? What's your focus?
Gosh, I mean, like, there's so much happening. It's a real exciting time, and also a nerve-wracking time to be in this business. Because it's like with AI and
It's
everything, like,
crazy.
I love it. I mean, like,
Yeah.
AI, I call my AI Lola. Like, she and I are really good friends. And but I think, like, how do we get everybody, like, the
Mhm.
thing about social commerce is you need to, like, I always call it the Titanic.
Yeah.
You need to move, you can't move the Titanic, you can't turn her too quick because she'll go down, right?
Yeah.
So I think, like, getting everybody to, like, get interested or participate, that's challenging. But I think there's so many ways that we can really make things easier for people. I think, like, making sure that our conversation that we're having is everywhere where people are consuming content is
Yep.
always a challenge. Like, first it was like, oh, TikTok. Oh, then, oh, you better be over there on Amazon, doing lives and social over
Yeah.
there. It's like, oh, don't forget, YouTube's coming back, like, don't forget, don't sleep on Facebook,
Yeah.
right? Like, you better get on Snap. I mean, this is not, you just gotta, like, stay in it and test and test and test. And one thing that we really love to do is explore things.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, like, I always say yes. And
Yeah.
Katie, the co-CEO here, this type of business isn't for the faint of heart. You can't be scared to fail.
Yeah.
And so I think as it relates to all the newness in tech, um, I foresee that, there's going to be like this AI merge
Yeah.
for commerce, and people need to start thinking about what selling on, via AI is going to look like. And
Yeah.
also for our social partners, like,
Yeah.
what is it going to look like for them?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because so I think just number one, thinking about how we can really continue to educate no
Yeah.
matter where. And then
Yeah.
also, how do we set our partners up for success? How can we, like, lead the way and make sure that they'll be successful in our future endeavors?
I love that perspective, and what a great way to close. So, Helen, thank you so much for joining us. If someone wants to find you online, where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, so I'm always on LinkedIn. You can find me at Helen Christoni on LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you so much, Helen, for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Samir.